মিলন হবে কত দিনে, ও মিলন হবে কত দিনে, ও আমার মনের মানুষের সনে, আমার মনের মানুষের সনে।
মিলন হবে কত দিনে, ও মিলন হবে কত দিনে, আমার মনের মানুষের সনে, আমার মনের মানুষের সনে। মিলন হবে কত দিনে, ও মিলন হবে কত দিনে, ও আমার মনের মানুষের সনে, ও আমার মনের মানুষের সনে। চাতক প্রায় নিশি, চেয়ে আছে কালো শশী, হব বলে চরণ দাসী, হবে বলে চরণ দাসী। ওটা হয় না কপাল গুনে, ওটা হয় না কপাল গুনে, আমার মনের মানুষের সনে, আমার মনের মানুষের সনে।
দিনে ও মিলন হবে কত দিনে, ও আমার মনের মানুষের সনে, আমার মনের মানুষের সনে। মেঘের বিদ্যুৎ মেঘে যেমন কালে না পায় অন্বেষণ, মেঘের বিদ্যুৎ মেঘে যেমন কালে না পায় অন্বেষণ, কালারে হারায় যেমন, কালারে হারায় যেমন, ওই রূপেরই এ দর্পণে, ওই রূপেরই এ দর্পণে, ও আমার মনের মানুষের সনে, আমার মনের মানুষের
What a start, Arup, what a start.
Surjo,
Oh my God, how are you?
how many instruments do you play?
I play a fair few.
Well, I cannot doubt that the spirits up there or down there, on the east or the west, wherever they are, within ourselves, up in the stars, I can't doubt that they have at least heard the echoes of your instruments. Shurjo, we discussed the all important foreword to the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, which was written by Aldous Huxley way back in 1942. This book was completed by Master Moshai in Bangla in the very late 19th century. It went into its first publication. I think I made an inadvertent error, or I may have given the impression that it was published in the late 19th century, but it got published in Bangla for the first time in 1911. And another inappropriate impression that I may have given, although I know I didn't say it, that it may have gone through several English translations in between. No, the first English translation is the one that you and I are actually reading. So, in case somebody goes back to our first episode and notices that inadvertent impression, then I beg for that to be retracted. So, we read, Shurjo, you and I, Aldous Huxley's all important foreword to the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, published in 1942 in Swami Nikhilananda's translation.
Yes.
And you and I gleaned quite a few interesting things, not merely in the spiritual order of things, but also things of a political nature, of a sociological nature, and about Master Moshai's prose, which we said that we are going to discuss a fair bit in the forthcoming episodes. So, why don't you lead us into this episode and tell us what route should we follow today?
Yes. So, welcome everyone to the second episode of our reading of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Welcome to the spiritual workshop. I think the route that we're going to take is just the most direct one, is further on in the book. And we're going to deal with the preface written by Swami Nikhilananda today. And we're going to read through it just because we need to know what everyone's thoughts were regarding this particular composition, their particular feelings towards it, their particular feelings towards the work, and towards the two men responsible, A. Sri Ramakrishna himself, and M. So let's just dive in to the preface by Swami Nikhilananda.
Absolutely.
Orup,
So,
how?
Shurjo, I'm not sure if we mentioned this very, very explicitly in the previous episode, but for a fair bit, for quite a few pages into the gospel, we find that the author Master Moshe is named as M. Now,
Yes,
M is
yes,
Mahendranath Gupta, as we will
yes, yes.
eventually, anyway, discover in the book. But so I think it's important to bring that up. Shurjo, why don't I listen to you reading the preface? Why don't you start? Unless you had some questions of me or you wanted to give any kind of background to this.
No, no, you know what? This is a wonderful opportunity for me, so I shall do my very best. Thank you, Roop. So here's my reading of the preface by Swami Nikhilananda. The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna is the English translation of the Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita, the conversations of Sri Ramakrishna with his disciples, devotees, and visitors, recorded by Mahendranath Gupta, who wrote the book under the pseudonym of M. The conversations in Bengali fill 5 volumes, the first of which was published in 1897 and the last shortly after M's death in 1932. Sri Ramakrishna Math, Madras, has published in 2 volumes an English translation of selected chapters from the monumental Bengali work. I have consulted these while preparing my translation. M, one of the intimate disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, was present during all the conversations recorded in the main body of the book and noted them down in his diary. They therefore have the value of almost stenographic records. In Appendix A are given several conversations which took place in the absence of M, but of which he received a first hand record from persons concerned. The conversations will bring before the reader's mind an intimate picture of the Master's eventful life from March 1882 to April 24th, 1886, only a few months before his passing away. During this period, he came in contact chiefly with English educated Bengalis. From among them, he selected his disciples and the bearers of his message, and with them he shared his rich spiritual experiences. How
How
about
about
that,
that,
Arup?
Arup? Well, I don't know. Would it be too dramatic, Shurju, if I said that I felt a kind of a jet of very different temperature of blood shooting down my spine. It gives me chills for so many reasons. There's history unfolding here, Shurjo. It's not
Yes,
merely well. I shouldn't. say merely. I mean, it's not just a work of spiritual biography. There's so much history involved in just those 4 years. It's so
Yes.
concentrated. March 1882 to April 24th, 1886. The last 4 years of Sri Ramakrishna's life. And Kathamrita, just to give some context, at least in the way that I became conditioned, and I'm sure uh, hundreds of thousands of Bengalis and maybe naturally people from outside Bengal, because Advaita Ashram and Ramakrishna Math have their branches in Madras, in the Andamans, in so many parts of India, northern India, in Sonipat, where I'm speaking from, that too. So Kathamrita, the nectar of his words, people have this surreal notion about what is Kathamrita. The master would have spoken, and
Yeah.
nectar was
Yeah.
dripping from his voice. Well, that is true in a manner of speaking, indeed. But Kathamrita is also a history of Calcutta, Surjo. It's also a history of what it meant to be one kind of Bengali, one kind of
Right.
Indian, one
Right.
kind of Hindu. So for those reasons, I found it so striking. What do you think?
I mean, it's just what we're getting into, unbelievable. And yes, again, just a condensed period of 4 years, and there's a lot to unpack. So let me carry on with this reading. I have made a literal translation, omitting only a few pages of no particular interest to English speaking readers. Often, literary grace has been sacrificed for the sake of literal translation. No translation can do full justice to the original. This difficulty is all the more felt in the present work, whose contents are of a deep mystical nature and describe the inner experiences of a great seer. Human language is an altogether inadequate vehicle to express supersensuous perception. Sri Ramakrishna was almost illiterate. He never clothed his thoughts in formal language. His words sought to convey his direct realization of truth. His conversation was in a village patois. Therein lies its charm. In order to explain to his listeners an abstruse philosophy, he, like Christ before him, used with telling effect homely parables and illustrations culled from his observation of the daily life around him. Wow.
I mean, Shurjo, this also goes to show some. I know we discussed that we would not be um, freshly reading this prior to our podcasts. You and I have some knowledge of this book,
Yeah.
but there was some tacit understanding between us that we wouldn't be preparing like scholars do. But you, in the previous episode, you'll recall you said something exactly like this. I don't know if you cheated and you read
Right.
Swami Nikhilananda's preface, but you said that culture cannot be translated, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to mysticism. But those may
Yeah.
not have been your exact words, but I'm paraphrasing, and I remember clearly that you had exactly this in your mind, that especially when supersensuous truths, and this is a very important phrase, Shurja, because not just for our studies, but in the Indic tradition, Sri Aurobindo would use this so much in his Adventures of Consciousness, and other all his translation of the Gita, for example. So supersensory or supersensuous truths is itself a controversial notion.
Yeah.
Western rationality uh, would not like this word supersensual or supersensuous, that is beyond the sensory, because what is beyond the sensory, this notion does not exist in so many other cultures. Also, Shurjo, I find this already so uh, radical in a spiritual way, that the words of Shami Nikhilananda are telling us that maybe there are places that we have lost, where Sri Ramakrishna cannot even be discussed openly anymore because we have rationalized our social spaces, our workplaces, maybe even our families to such a large extent that these abstruse philosophical parables which were born from his experience, not from some legal textbook or constitution or that theological or
Right.
this religious book. So I do not have sources to prove what Ramakrishna was saying, whether that's veridical or not. But it's got to be felt, it's got to be experienced.
He is the source.
Exactly.
That's a question of faith. Or if you believe in his faith, it takes on certain layers.
I don't know, Shurjo. It is so. Can I be? eh, It's. I know it's taboo to be emotional and everything, but this man adopted Christianity. He
Yes.
adopted
Yes.
Islam.
Yes.
He did not wear the privileges of, uh, call it caste. Uh, I don't know what is the current legally appropriate word. Caste privileges. He did not own his caste supremacy or superiority, or he did not pretend to be underprivileged. He just was. Somebody was saying this about a more recent Indian sage or seer or philosopher, that he just was. He was a conscious human being. In the Ramakrishna order, people consider Sri Ramakrishna to be an avatar, an
Yes.
incarnation.
Yes.
But he was just being himself. Where have we lost this man, Shurjo, who could be so many different identities, a Shaivite, a Vaishnavite, J. Kali Shri Krishna, who could be Muslim, who could speak parables like Christ. Why have we forsaken him?
I don't think really think it's a question of us forsaking him. It's more a question of us forsaking us. When the answers are already there, it's just a question of like we are going to turn a blind eye. We do not believe. Therefore, we do not get it. People like it becomes a thing in the news when, oh my God, the scientists went to the temple before their rocket was launched. What do you want? We are in a weird time. One of the reasons why we're doing this, one of the reasons why we're in the spiritual workshop. So, moving on, the reader will find mentioned in the work many visions and experiences that fall outside the ken of physical science and even psychology. With the development of modern knowledge, the borderline between the natural and the supernatural is ever shifting its position. Genuine mystical experiences are not as suspect now as they were half a century ago. The words of Sri Ramakrishna have already exerted a tremendous influence in the land of his birth. Savants of Europe have found in his words the ring of universal truth. This is exactly what you were just talking about. But interestingly, he says in the previous 50 years, genuine mystical experiences, okay, they are more open minded now than they were 50 years ago. Well, this is around 80 years ago. We are back to being cynics.
Exactly what you just said in the
Yep.
example that you gave. Now, look, Shurjo, you might think I'm trying to be politically correct or I'm virtue signaling. I do not. Yes, you are a believer. I too believe, but I continue to be an empiricist. I'm a British empiricist in many, many ways. Empiricism is not equivalent to cynicism.
Yeah.
I am a compassionate skeptic in many ways, and in many cases, I'm a devotee of Ramakrishna.
Yes.
What they are calling mysticism, what Shamiji is calling mysticism, he himself goes on to say is actually probably very close to psychology. It's probably very close to realms of absolute possibility. So it's not, you know, it's not the words that we use, it's the attitude. And yes, you're absolutely right. Whether a scientist goes to a temple or a mosque before or after launching a rocket, that news need not be covered. It is not
It's
the
not news.
scientist's news. I'm covering his private life. It is my responsibility that I should or I should not. And I would not if I were given a choice. Let him go, let him go to a garden, a mausoleum, the Taj Mahal, or you know.
If the person who has the skill to launch a rocket, and the question you ask him is whether he's going to the temple, you are really shutting yourself off to the knowledge that this person has. You're in your own lane. You don't want to learn, just want to sensationalize, and maybe that's the way you earn, which then is a telling statement on the affairs, that state of affairs for us right now, that sensationalism sells. Even the sensationalism of the life of a scientist, any person, that they can, okay, this person is in the news for something that they have done, but what can we do to fit it to our narrative for making it a little bit more sensational? Now, in your own personal life as a scholar, you personally have had enough of this sort of misinterpretation of your intentions, and in fact of the breadth of your personality. You are a believer in Sri Ramakrishna, who has given you hope in your life while you are British empiricist. This dichotomy might be too broad for them with the blinders on, but then it's fashionable to have blinders on. If it doesn't work for us, I guess is the reason why we are reading this and educating ourselves in this doctrine.
So well spoken, Shurjo. By the way, thank you. Both on a personal note, and I'm sure people who are listening will find all this highly valuable. Let me sort of jog to the third last paragraph of the preface. It's not a very long preface. We definitely endorse it. All of you should read it. But um, I mean, it goes on to thank several individual people. So I'm coming back to what Swami Nikhilananda says about Sri Ramakrishna. And Shurjo, there's something very interesting happening in this paragraph. We could discuss that. Shamanji writes, in the spiritual firmament, Sri Ramakrishna is a waxing crescent. Within 100 years of his birth and 50 years of his death, his message has spread across land and sea. Roman Rolland has described him as the fulfillment of the spiritual aspirations of the 300 million Hindus for the last 2000 years. Mahatma Gandhi has written his life, that is Sri Ramakrishna's life, enables us to see God face to face. Ramakrishna was a living embodiment of godliness, says Gandhiji. He is being recognized as a compeer of Krishna, Buddha, and Christ. In the previous paragraph that you read, your thoughts and mine resonated exactly um, and we almost anticipated the paragraph. Uh, there's something very interesting happening here as well. Within 100 years of his birth and 50 years of his death, his message has spread across land and sea. What do you think of that, Shurjo?
This is what people call going viral nowadays. These were the original people, but thank God their message was one that, not a virus, it saved rather than infected. And so unlikely, a nearly illiterate man in a corner of a city unassuming, and yet a colossus. People from far and wide are humbled before him.
That, and it signaled to me one more thing. We think some of us might be misunderstood at a given point of time. We were not thanked. We were not shown the rightful gestures. We were not given our deserts. And here is this man who we are spiritually looking up to for the salvation of sorts. And his teachings take 50 years after his death. So I think Shurjo, you know, we mortals like
Absolutely.
us have a very, very long way to go. So we
Absolutely.
need to wait for
Very well said.
50 years definitely, and a lot more to be fully manifested. Without further ado, let's look at the last two paragraphs. Maybe I'll read one, and Shurja, maybe you could follow up with the next one. The life and teachings of Sri Ramakrishna have redirected the thoughts of a denationalized race of Hindus to the spiritual ideals of their forefathers. During the latter part of the 19th century, his was the time honored role of the savior of the eternal religion of the Hindus. His teachings played an important part in liberalizing the minds of Orthodox Hindus, Pandits, and hermits. Even now, he is the silent force that is molding the spiritual destiny of India. So true, even today. Whether or not he is remembered as much, but still so true. His great disciple, Swami Vivekananda, was the first Hindu missionary to preach the message of Indian culture to the enlightened minds of Europe and America. The full consequence of Swami Vivekananda's work is still in the womb of future. Again,
Yes.
so true.
Wonderful. Just wonderful. To finish off, may this translation of the first book of its kind in the religious history of the world, being the record of the direct words of a prophet, help stricken humanity to come nearer to the eternal verity of life and remove dissension and quarrel from among the different faiths. May it enable seekers of truth to grasp the subtle laws of the supersensuous realm and unfold before man's restricted vision the spiritual foundation of the universe, the unity of existence, and the divinity of the soul.
I have heard um, in lectures of the monks of the Ramakrishna order that Shamiji used to say apparently that earlier if you did not believe in God you were an atheist, but in Shamiji's time he would say that if you do not believe in yourself, in the to paraphrase the divinity of the soul, then you are an atheist.
Wow. I think they were operating on a different level, wondrous to behold.
Thank you for the reading, Shurjo. It was really wonderful to listen to you.
And to you,
Thank you.
how about we finish off this episode the way we started with a song? Take it
Take it away.
away.
I'm inspired to go back to the song that you started the spiritual workshop with, Shama Ma Ki Amar Kalo, and maybe we'll listen to you as well. Uh, I'll try what I can. Such a beautiful song. এ বলে কালি কালো আমার মন তো বলে না কালো রে শ্যামা মা কি আমার কালো রে, শ্যামা মা কি আমার কালো। লোকে বলে কালি কালো, আমার মন তো বলে না কালো রে। কালো রূপে দিগম্বরী, কালো রূপে দিগম্বরী, হৃদি পদ করে মোরালো রে। মা কি আমার কালো।
Bravo!
Bravo!
Well done,
Well
well
done,
done.
well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was hoping you would follow.
I don't follow where I know I'm going to be booed.
This is the, I'm sure this is the feet of Sri Ramakrishna. Please.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I think with that, we bid our dear listeners adieu, and we shall join them for episode 3. Everyone, take care of yourself. From me, Surjo and Arup,